Welcome back. We have Eleanor Deckert joining us on the show. She made the trip in from Clearwater this morning to talk about the release of her second book. This is called 10 Days in January. And this is book number 2, because the first one she was on the show for last year, 10 Days in December. Welcome back to the show. It's great to have you here, Eleanor.
Thank you so much for making me feel so welcome.
Well, you're so welcome to be here, and we're excited to hear a little bit about this. 10 Days in December was very much about one chapter of your life when you chose to move to BC, live in this little log cabin, and about how the fact it was so cold and so freezing, and you wondered, what are you doing?
Isolation.
And isolated. But 10 Days in January takes a bit of a different tact chapter by chapter.
It's actually quite a different book, and readers need to know that it's going to be a little bit different. These 10 days in December are the first 10 days that we actually lived in the cabin, and I actually remember what happened, because Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, went back to work, and then the temperature plummeted. And then I'm like, wow, I thought everybody was joking about 40 below. It actually happens. We were only heating with a kitchen wood stove, so there's only that much fire. And the floorboards had shrunk like they do on your deck, and so I'm putting newspaper in between the cracks. So I know what I went through on this. When I put book 1 on the front cover, I thought, now I have to, before I do that, I have to be sure I can write a second book. So I kind of searched inside myself, what can I say about January? In the cabin, all I can say is, so we were brave enough to get out of our sleeping bags every hour and a half to put more wood on the fire, go out into the forest and get more wood, scoop up snow on the way back in to melt for water, and you don't want to read that for 3 weeks. But that's how long it took. So I kind of searched around in my mind and thought, well, what else in my life has happened in January? My brothers are twins, and they were born in January, so that's one day. And I was only 15 months old, which is why this little baby picture is on the back. My life changed a lot when twin brothers arrived. My dad's birthday is in January, so that's the first chapter, when I was a little girl, remembering the kinds of things that happened in our family. So that's 1966. Coming right up to now, my husband retired in January. So each chapter has one January date, one of the men in my family, and then the things that you might be interested to read about my relationship with my father, my mother's second husband, a man that I adopted as my father, and then a Catholic priest. How did I meet him?
Right.
What difference did that make in my life?
Who ended up being a real constant in your life. It's very...
And then how did all of those influences impact how I mothered my 3 sons.
Sure.
I have a daughter too, she's in there, but this is about the men, and they're all January dates. So it kind of is a very different thing. You have to pay attention to the dates, otherwise...
It won't make sense. It's a very courageous thing to write about your own personal experiences, because you know what? We all have a childhood, and we all remember good things and bad things, things that form who you are, sort of define your self-concept, and it's a bit humbling, but also it takes courage to do that.
Yes, I wrote, each chapter I sent to each person who's still alive. My dad's passed away, and my adopted dad, and the Catholic priest friend has passed away. So I sent the chapters to each of the sons and brothers to sort of let them read it and get their permission. A couple of things were asked to be deleted, and so I did that. A couple of things I softened that were a bit harsh, and my brothers gave me one of my brothers is a philosophy professor, so I get good advice from him.
That's helpful.
And so then, but still it is a little bit awkward to go ahead with the story. My story is quite different than my siblings, because I'm the oldest, and I remember the most, and I was aware of the most. My mother and I were kind of on one team, and the other kids were with Dad. And now that I've been to counseling and read some family psychology type of books, now I understand how that happened and how that impacts everybody, and how when you tell your story, people in your family might say, that never happened, that's not how it was. That is how it was for me. My brothers and sisters and I had an anniversary, 20 years since Daddy died, and we did a conference telephone call. And my brother said, I can't think of a time when my dad raised his voice to me. And I was like, wow, I can.
Isn't it interesting how the same family can have different versions of what happened in the family?
That's right, that's right.
Would you ever ask one of your siblings to write a chapter in one of your books?
Write a chapter in my book?
In one of your books that you go on with? Because it might be such a different version of the same reality.
That would be interesting. I've never thought of that.
Well, it's just you are not stopping here.
No. 10 Days in February is on the go. What I do is I outline it, which I did at the very beginning before I even put book 1 on the first one. So they're all outlined. Then I write 4 pages for each chapter, and then I call that like pinning it down. It's not going anywhere. I'm not going to forget. I'm going to be able to pick that up and then put the conversations in, the descriptions and so on. So 10 days in February, March, and April have all been started that way. And so I have 4 pages for each chapter. So I'm going to take a break from writing for a little while and try to get more readers, and then come up with 10 days in February, and people are waiting. They're
That's
already
awesome.
waiting. As soon as they close the book, they phone me up and say, when's the next book coming? I'm like, you guys, it takes a little while.
Good for you. It's great to have such success, though.
The feedback, Susan, that's so interesting is, with this book, everybody came up to me in Clearwater and tells me, people that I know, their kerosene lamps, their log cabins, their, cold winter.
Sure.
So if this does the same thing, the family dynamics, your dad, your siblings, your sister, your brother, your mom, people are telling me those stories. People are telling each other those stories, because my life isn't that exciting or marvelous or scary, but your life, you need to tell your story to your family. And so if this helps generate that conversation,
Absolutely.
that would be a good thing.
Good for you, Eleanor.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're already out of time.
Okay.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and safe travels back to Clearwater,
you.
of course. Eleanor's going to be at Chapters tomorrow, though, from 1:30 right through the afternoon,
Yes.
possibly until 7. She'd love to meet up with you. You can get your own version of the book signed. We look forward to having you back on the show again.
I'll be back.
Great, awesome.
Thank you.
Quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.